Ubani. So Ubani, a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to Africa at Play.
Thank you so much, the Velvet Voice of Africa. And indeed, I am really very happy, despite the fact that we could not, get to the goal, playing in the finals of the African Cup of Nations.
Let's talk about that match. I know for sure that the green and white, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, were gunning for the gold medal in this Africa Cup of Nations as a consolation to say to the people of West Africa and the people of Nigeria, yes, we did not qualify for the FIFA World Cup, but look what we did on the continental stage. But football being football, they could only achieve the bronze medallion. How's the feeling in Nigeria?
Yeah, Neto, I think the feeling is that of happiness. The intentions of everybody was that Nigeria was going to win the African Cup of Nations as a compensation, to millions of Nigerians, for not qualifying for the World Cup. Initially, when the African Cup of Nations started, not so many people were keen on watching or even following the Super Eagles because people were massively disappointed that Nigeria could not get to qualify for the World Cup back to back. It was a very, very sad feeling. But gradually, we saw the Super Eagles rising to the occasion, but before you know it, and then, the momentum, it gathered momentum, and indeed, the Super Eagles, gained so much popularity. And of course, with the brand of football they played, most especially the coach, an African coach, Malian coach, Eric Chekutiel, brought everything into his game. And of course, today, the man that was initially rejected by Nigerians has turned to a hero. Nigerians are indeed happy. And I must tell you, the number one citizen of Nigeria, President Ahmed Tinubu, branded the bronze medal a golden bronze, for what the efforts that the Super Eagles put into it. And of course, that also shows you the joy, that spread across every Nigerian out here, Neto.
If you have just joined us, we are talking to our West African correspondent, Tony Ubani, all the way from Lagos, Nigeria. So, Ubani, when the tournament goes towards the climax point, talking about a situation like the semi-finals, we start seeing a drought of goals. In the first semi-final, Senegal defeated Egypt by just one goal, a goal that was scored by Sadio Mane from West Africa. And that goal marked the 120th goal of this Africa Cup of Nations in Cote d'Ivoire 2023. A total of 119 goals were scored at the end of the final match, where Cote d'Ivoire beat the Super Eagles of Nigeria by 2-1. But we've seen matching those goals by the end of the quarter-final matches in this ongoing Africa Cup of Nations. So as it stands, we've only exceeded that mark of 119 with just one goal. In the second semi-final, when I thought there could be a number of goals to increase the 120 goals scored after the first semi-final, a goal scored by Sadio Mane, it all ended in a 0-0 draw when Nigeria took on the Atlas Lions of Morocco. And then Nigeria went on to play against Egypt in the third match playoff, where Nigeria triumphed by 4-2 on penalties. Another dry season of goals in that match, where it ended 0-0. What happened to the goals?
Yeah, I think we should just give it to the technical acumen of the coaches. I think that the coaches needed their defensive. Everybody tightened almost everything to ensure that there was no leaking defense. I think that's what I can attribute it to. But then it must be also to the goodness, the fine artistry of African football. In the beginning, when you see the opening ceremonies and of course the group stage matches, almost everything is relaxed because, you have an opportunity of playing up to 2-3 games, before picking qualification. But immediately it enters into the knockout stages. This is where the real tacticians come out and then begin to make adjustments. And of course, the strikers and defenders definitely put on their thinking cap. Nobody wants to concede, and of course, every defense will be on all the marksmen, that not giving them that opportunity of scoring. And all marksmen will equally be devising means of how they will dribble and, of course, outmatch the defenders. I think African football has risen from what we have seen. The avalanche of goals that we have seen, despite the goodness of the defenders, has gone to show that indeed African players who are plying their trades outside of Africa have indeed brought their trademarks in their clubs to bear on their national teams. And I think for me it's a very good development. And that Africa, as an African, I am indeed very, very proud. This is one tournament that I know the eyes of the world have been on, and in terms of organization, in terms of play, most importantly, there has not been any disappointment. All the African players brought their A game to bear on the African Cup of Nations ending today out there in Morocco.
Is the job of Eric Chelle still safe?
If you ask me, I would say 99.5% yes. For me, for a young man who started on a very shaky note, today, the president of Nigeria says the bronze he won is a golden bronze. I think that speaks volume of how safe his job is. And I must tell you on good authority that the chairman of the National Sports Commission, Shehu Diko, is already making contacts with the agents of Eric Chelle. And of course, in one of the post matches that he was asked, he said that he remains the coach of Nigeria. And of course, if indeed Nigeria will give him that opportunity, he will want to continue. Eric Chelle might not have met the aspirations of those who employed him. They gave him the task of qualifying for the final. Of course, he could not meet up with that. But the brand of football, the satisfaction that many Nigerians got from the Super Eagles, not minding the fact that they did not qualify for the World Cup, I think that Eric Chelle's job is safe, except for the fact that if he begins to ask for terms that Nigeria might not be able to meet NATO.